Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nuganomics with David Tulis.
If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. That is us. My name is David Tulis, the mild-mannered editor, formerly with Newsprint Inc., stains on his fingertips, having for nearly 25 years worked as an editor at our esteemed local newspaper, the Chattanooga Times-Free Press. I was a copy editor. My job was to make the business editor and the business writers, such as Ella Smith, look good. That was what I did. And now I'm in radio, and I don't leave any smudges anywhere. And if I misspell a word, well, no one knows because it's delivered orally. So there's no room for typographical errors in headlines. We are the station that argues for local economy and the free market. We have a vigorous and prejudicial argument to make, always favoring the marketplace, sometimes favoring business, but generally, if you say you're for business, you're not really saying enough. We say instead that we're for the marketplace because there we understand there is liberty of movement and there's no actor, there's no party that sets the rules other than the rules of equity and controls things by either power or force. And that is the free market. And whenever the state gets into business, whenever we have commercial government, which is what we have now, government as a business actor, we have a reduced free market. And yes, our goal is here to expand that free market to make sure that you, my listener, enjoy it and that you share in the wealth and prosperity to be created there, right? In the national economy where there's debt, regulation, and government control and political favoritism always in play, it's a lot harder to make a true and honest living. How do we do that here? I think we have the best shot of making an honest and good living in local economy and the free market. And so if you run a business, you will have your best chance by staying local, keeping local, and finding other ways of investing. My theory is divest national and invest local and get liquid because the disaster is ahead. It cannot be stopped. The national debt will not be paid, and there's going to be a great run in confidence, a great collapse of confidence that will come when the common people, the people who are beneath you, right, and what you know, when they suddenly understand what you already see is happening, and they act in concert, following CalPERS and everybody else and getting out of the market and selling like crazy. So there'll be a market, and the free fall, it will be so steep there will be no buyers. It will just fall and fall and fall. We're brought to you by Superior Air Systems, the folks in the big orange vans that drive around and take care of your air conditioning and heating unit. That's Superior Air Systems. Make sure you take your Tennessee handgun permit class at Carter Shooting Supply and Range. That's Carter Shooting Supply and Range on Highway 58, and that's the class for getting your concealed carry permit, something I strongly encourage you, my listener, to do. Be the armed citizen, the man who can defend women and children. That's your job as a man, regardless of whether you have a firearm. And I do recommend that you do that. Now, we want to talk with a man named Rick Powell, who runs a very interesting company here in Chattanooga. It's called TAB Chattanooga, T-A-B Chattanooga. And TAB is it refers to the alternative board, the alternative board. If you're in business and you have maybe, let's say, $500,000 in gross revenues a year, you may not really have a board, and you may not have a group of people who advise you on your problems. And so what Rick Powell has done as a franchise of a company that lets this happen, he has formulated the TAB Chattanooga. Rick, tell my listener what it is you do. What is the alternative board? Why would my listener, if he runs a business, need a board at all?
That's a good question, David. Private business owners typically find themselves in the situation where they have things that they'd like to discuss or talk about, but it's very difficult for them to talk about them because they are emotionally tied to their families, emotionally tied to the issue, or their friends are emotionally tied or monetarily and tied to the answers to those questions. So they really need an outside source they can seek out where they can ask their questions and get them answered by an unbiased board of peers.
So what you do at TAB Chattanooga is provide a peer advisory group, and your customers become the people whom you also help. Well, explain how that works exactly. Your members, your customers become members of Tab Chattanooga. What do they do? What happens then?
That's a good question also, David. What we do is we put together boards of essentially a board of directors like you'd find in a public company, but it is a group of private business owners, anywhere from 4 to 8 on an individual board. And then we would meet once a month for a half a day, and we talk about each other's opportunities and challenges that have come up. And we provide, we ask qualifying questions, make sure that we really understand the issue, and then we provide our advice and insights into possible solutions for the business owner. So
the members, then your customers, they pay Tab Chattanooga, they become members, and then they do that because they want advice, but they're also willing to give advice.
That is
as
correct.
well,
yes,
right?
Sir.
So let's say at some point you'll have 100 members. They're all operators of businesses. They're mostly owners. Is that right?
Right.
Owners.
Mostly.
Okay, and so they have a meeting every 6 months among people who come, 4 to 8 people on their board.
Not every 6 months.
How often?
We meet once a month.
Once a month.
Meet once a month.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And these are people who are not competitors. How does that dealt with?
Each board is built of people that are non-competitors, because we talk marketing plans, we talk sales, we talk profit, we talk things you probably don't want your competitor to directly know.
Are the board members required to sign confidentiality agreements?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
as am I. And anybody that attends as a guest, if we have a guest speaker or whatever, they all are under a confidentiality agreement.
And so what kind of problems come up? Let's say my listener runs a restaurant. Let's say he runs a restaurant, a private, not a chain. It's his own name, his own family name, and he's been at it for a year. Okay, why would he call you, Rick Powell of Tab Chattanooga? What is your pitch to him? What problems does he have in his mind?
Well, typically you'll find somebody that's, frustrated with the performance of their business, or they're disappointed in their revenues, or they may be worried about changing markets and willing to work on those issues, but they're also need to be open to fellow suggestions or fellow peer member suggestions. Now, some of the issues, if that's what you're asking, David, HR issues, payroll challenges, credit, debit, debt, facilities, supply chain, marketing, sales, and one of the big ones is exit strategies.
Meaning what?
Meaning they know that sometime in the future they want to either sell their business, or they want to prep it for one of their children or something along those lines, but they have no idea how to really get there.
Well, so all right, so let's say my listener runs this restaurant. It's been going for a year, and he has credit debit. What kind of problems? What kind of problems would that be? Describe what that problem would be. What would he be saying to the board members who come every month to meet for 4 hours? What are they going to be discussing?
If he has a credit issue, maybe it's in accounts receivables or behind, that kind of thing, he would bring that issue up to the board. The board will talk about their experiences and what they've had through that. And then we always either have a banker that is a board member, or we have bankers that are partners. And so we would, in addition to the membership advice that they would get, they also would have some bankers that could provide solutions. But mostly from the other businesses, they're going to have crossed that challenge before and found a way to solve it and make their suggestions.
What about, say, the use of social media to promote my restaurant? What about that?
That's a common one too for marketing, and we have a lot of good sources for that. Fortunately, my background is very strong in technology, so I have a natural tendency to want to help people out in that area, but not just me. I mean, we have marketing experts that are heavy into the social marketing now, and they're the second highest type of business person that you'll find on a board. So. This
is David Tulis. We're talking with Rick Powell. Rick is 58 years old. He lives in Appleton. He and his wife, Nancy, have 2 children, ages 25 and 28. One's a teacher, and the other is in medical residency. He's a business coach, an analyst, and a consultant, and he has just started a couple months ago, 3 months ago, November the 1st, he started Tab Chattanooga, which is a franchise. And Tab means the alternative board. And he's essentially coaching the members. You join, it's like a kind of a special business club. You join, and your fee, that you pay a fee, and then what you give and you get. You give, you're right, you get advice from your board, a group of people not in your field assigned to look out for you. They sign confidentiality agreements, and they are full men and women of goodwill. But you also, in turn, you sit on boards created for other businesses. Again, not in your field, but you are there to hear their problems, and to every month at a board meeting, you give the best of your advice.
That is absolutely
in good faith and goodwill.
Yes. And then in between those board meetings, I meet with each of the members one-on-one in a coaching session, private coaching session.
Well, what about accountability? Boards generally have, they have firing power, right? They unseat CEOs and fire COOs for their bad jobs, and CFOs sometimes get raked over the coals by boards and are let go or chastened. What about accountability on the TAB Chattanooga boards that you are creating?
Well, the beauty of this model is that you do have accountability, but it's accountability to a group of friends that are fellow members on your board, and you don't want to disappoint those friends. And the advantage of that over the type of board you're talking about is you can say absolutely anything and share absolutely anything you want with these people without the fear of being fired or suffering financially.
So the board you have doesn't have legal authority, doesn't have firing authority, hiring authority like board members do, say, of public companies.
Correct.
Right.
They do not.
Well, how do you find these people? How do you are a businessman yourself? You are marketing TAB Chattanooga as a business. How do you find them, and what kind of person are you looking for? Would you maybe be looking for someone like my listener?
Absolutely. Like I said, anybody that feels like they're a little frustrated with the performance of their business, or they know they want to do something, but they're not real sure how to structure their business or change their business in order to make sure they get there. The TAB International has been around for 25 plus years. We celebrated our 25th anniversary last year. We're just new to Chattanooga. And we have a great model. We have a great set of proprietary tools that helps you understand where you're currently at in your business and where you need to focus a little differently to maybe get where your personal vision says you want to be.
So you get members of TAB Chattanooga by referrals. What other mechanisms do you get people to come to you for your services?
Yeah, referrals are the absolute best way, but we also have run a telemarketing campaign, and I do a lot of the business networking too. Belong to some of the local business groups.
Such as?
BNI Chattanooga, the Lookout
What is
Center.
That? What is that?
Business Networking International is what it stands for. It's a group of business owners that get together once a week in the morning.
For breakfast?
For breakfast or lunch, but ours is breakfast, very early before the workday. We get together and we just talk a little bit about what our challenges are that week and what we're looking for in the way of referrals. And that kind of thing.
Do you recommend that kind of meeting for my listener?
Absolutely. If you're not a member of that, I think it's a very, very good thing.
Are there other business groups which might be useful for my listener to attend?
We have a very strong local Chamber of Commerce group that is real good at assisting.
Now, you live in Appleton. Are you referring to a group whose members you meet in Appleton, or is that one more in town?
The BNI group is in town.
And what about the Chamber group?
The Chamber group would be downtown. Yes, downtown Chattanooga.
So TAB Chattanooga is kind of a turnkey operation. My listener, or people he knows in business, don't have boards. They're run by family members, by individuals. But you say, okay, let me provide you with this group of people who are constituted to help you. You join our group. You join as a member of TAB, the alternative board. Mm-hmm. You then have a board, but you also will sit on maybe one or two. How many boards would my listener possibly sit on if you became a member?
Typically, a member would sit on just one.
One board. Okay, so
you might be a guest at another board if their particular expertise is needed at that meeting.
Okay, and you of course you get to know all the members that you have and all their. Sometimes you kind of borrow from one company's board, bring that person into another if that person has specific
and the beauty
knowledge.
Of this too, the model is that if the members themselves don't happen to have this solution right at the top of their head to your particular issue, worldwide we have a group of people that I just shoot an email out to and get solutions sent to me from people that have addressed that solution before.
What's the smallest size of business whose owner or director would be ideal for TAB Chattanooga?
Well, technically, there is no smallest size, but our target market usually starts around the $500,000 in revenue range, and usually more than one employee, several.
So 4 to 5 staffers, maybe. Including the owner. And is it revenue? Would that be gross receipts?
Yes.
Is that gross?
Yes.
Okay, gross receipts of $500,000. And what kind of businesses have that much money and are small? Name some of the kinds of businesses that we're talking about?
They're all over the place. Service industry and professional industries, especially. You'll find commercial cleaning companies. You'll find companies that do like lawyers, doctors. Doctors not so much, but lawyers and CPAs are very high on the list.
Is there a common misconception among owners of business, Rick Powell, that you see a great deal of?
A common what?
A common misconception. Is there any strain of bad thinking out there that you find is a continuing problem?
Well, the continuing and biggest problem with a private business owner is they're so immersed in the day-to-day activity that they don't ever think about their business strategically at all. They don't take a step back and think about what I'm going to do 2 years from now. They're just trying to fight this week's fires. That's really the biggest issue right there.
What other ones are there?
Oh, man, there's a lot of them. The marketing is a big piece right now. A lot of people have been struggling with how do I market my business? How do I get more sales? How do I grow in revenue? And not a lot of them have had time to explore fully the social media and digital options. And there's some great ones out there for that. And that is getting stronger and stronger every day. And we do a good job of helping with that as well.
So, Rick Powell, every member gets on his behalf a monthly meeting with his board, and the board members could number anywhere from
4 to 8.
4 to 8.
You get more than 8, and it's hard to manage it for a 4-hour meeting. Yes.
And all the members act in goodwill. They use all that they know to help. They listen in the meeting. They listen. Usually there's probably an agenda set for each meeting, right, with 4 or 5 items that the owner wants to deal with. Or do they set the agenda? Who sets the agenda?
Each individual person, and I meet with them on a one-on-one private coaching session in between those board meetings, and we identify what we're going to bring to the board at the next meeting, and we follow up with what our action items were from the last meeting. So you mentioned accountability earlier, David. That's the accountability right there.
And the accountability is that the board members gently say, "Well, John, we brought this up last meeting. We suggested 4 steps to take, and you seem to have maybe just done 1. Can you talk a bit about that?" So they make him defend his inaction or his missteps.
Exactly. And a lot of private business owners, quite frankly, aren't used to accountability. They're the man at the top. It's lonely at the top, they say. But.
Well, what's the attrition rate of members at TAB International? How many join and then just say, "Well, I can't take this anymore"?
Well, I'll tell you, the average membership length is 4 years, 4 1/3 years. We have some, though, that a number of them across the U.S. that have been members for 10 years, and we have 2 that have been members for 20 years, which is amazing because the company's only 25 years old. But if you think about it, people get on this in order to get their business in a state where they can maybe transition out of the business. And so maybe that's why it's 4 1/3 years. You know, it takes you several years to maybe want to sell the business or get it in a state where you can sell it. And once you sell it, it doesn't make sense to remain a member unless you buy another business.
Right. Well, let's hope that that's the case. This is David Tulis. We're talking with Rick Powell. The website for the alternative board in Chattanooga is tabchattanooga.com. That's tab, T-A-B, Chattanooga.com. Want you also to know about Bruce Krebs. Bruce runs Entrepreneur Source, and he will help get you into a franchise that fits the market, that fits your background, your skills, your gifts, your capital availability. He can help you get $150,000 from the good people, an unsecured loan, I think it is, for $150,000 on your signature alone through Entrepreneur Source. That's Entrepreneur Source. His number is 875-5621. And did Bruce Krebs help you, Rick, find TAB Chattanooga?
Yes, he did. Absolutely.
And that's why we really appreciate Bruce Krebs. He has brought many fine entrepreneurs in Chattanooga to our attention, including Rick. And all these are all people who have bought into somebody else's business, and with a tried and true system, and have marketing help and other help. And they start here, taking the initiative in the Chattanooga market. We're brought to you also by Eric Pelton. Eric is the numbers guy and an accountant. He helps you keep more of what you've earned in your business or in your personal life. He does tax returns for people who are so liable, and does accounting and cash flow management. His name is Eric Pelton. His website is ejpelton.com, ejpelton.com. Eric Pelton, his number is 622-3156, 622-3156. And now there's a $10 off offer for you, my listener. You have a smartphone, you have intelligent devices, and if a screen breaks, you get a $10 off gift on me. Just mention Hot News Talk Radio. If you go to Cell Surgeon the cell device repair service in Northgate Mall. It's right next to Old Chicago's Pizza, right in the next building, right the next storefront from next to Old Chicago's Pizza in Northgate Mall. That's Cell Surgeon. The number is 668-0100, 668-0100. Open on Sunday. And again, it's $10 off on a screen repair. Just ask for it, and that should tell Adam or Anthony that you are my listener here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And this is David Tulis. I do want you to always mention me to our advertisers. That's how radio works. You patronize our advertisers, they get more business. But occasionally, people like you will say, "Hey, I heard about you on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio." Rick Powell, thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Rick Powell runs Tab Chattanooga, the Alternative Board. The Alternative Board. If you, a small business reaching $500,000 a year or so in revenues, need a board, Rick Powell is the man to call. This is David Tulis.